Welcome back to another NovNov session. Today we're going to be looking at the AdGuard dashboard a little bit, and then also hopping back into DigitalOcean to downsize our Droplet so we don't get charged that $18 a month that I kicked it up to earlier. But just going into some of the boxes y'all might see on here, due to the block lists I had selected, we don't see a whole lot of malware phishing or adult websites, also because I didn't have that browsing traffic this time around, I guess, would be a way. Anyway, but we do see that we had about 7,000 DNS queries and 1,500 of those were blocked by our filters, which is 21%. Full disclosure, I forgot to add it to my Wi-Fi settings yesterday. So I went back in at about 10:30 this morning and added it in. So the 8,000 DNS queries are just from the devices using my Wi-Fi today in the last 4-ish hours. So you can check out a lot of things from here, the queried and blocked domains down near the bottom, the general statistics, or you could go into the DNS queries specifically. So I'm going to click over this tab for that. And here we've got a bunch of stuff going on. We've got some DNS queries going. We see that some worked, right? So hacksmarter.org was processed, but default.exptest.com was blocked by my Hagazi Pro list. Again, we're going to see that being most of the things. He also has an ultimate one, which is a little bit bigger, but these are just the DNS queries that made it through, and then the red are going to be blocked. So there we got another one, AdGuard DNS filter. Got my telemetry blocked out. There's also going to be some Microsoft telemetry that gets blocked. We've got some mobile events. I also saw some Roku on here earlier, which was kind of funny. Roku smart TVs make a lot of calls and have SSH open on a lot of them, but that's a topic for a different day. Again, AdGuard's catching some stuff. Hagazi's Pro Plus Plus is catching some stuff. But I don't have a whole lot else going on here. But again, this is all just in the last little bit. So we're still in the 2 o'clock, 14:06. So this is going back 4 minutes. Here we got some more. Not even back to the top of the hour yet. And that's kind of stuff you can see here in AdGuard. If you're looking at the logs, you can specify domains and clients to look at. So if I wanted to look at specifically YouTube, I can see just that. We can see the APIs are getting through and most of just generic YouTube. This is going to be coming from my TV because I like to leave lo-fi playing for my dogs so that they don't bark so much. And sometimes I play Bluey. Bluey's a really cool show because it is written and color schemed in such a way that animals can view it. Anyway, if you go to settings and then DNS settings, you can designate an upstream server if you want to. It's just going to use Quad 9 by default. There's some examples of other options you could use. You can enter in fallback. It's got the bootstrap. So a lot of stuff you can do in here if you want to. I like to come down here, enable DNS SEC or DNS with security extensions. This is a way to sign, seal, and deliver DNS so that it gets trusted more. That's a lot of just the generic DNS settings you could play with. Encryption settings. So this is going to be how you can enable HTTPS, or sorry, DNS over HTTPS or DOW, or DNS over TLS dot, or DNS over QUIC, all through here. You can add in your own server information if you need to, and add in your certificates so that you can sign it, right? Going back to briefly talked about that when we were talking about keys, but essentially we're going to use our certificate to prove we are who we say we are if we set that up, and then our private key to authenticate to ourselves. So our certificate makes other people trust us. We use our private key to have like a secured login so that we can prove who we are to our system. Certificate is for other people to trust our system. Private key is for our system to trust us so that we can sign in and do stuff. The only other one that I get hit on or that I hit on ever is going to be the DHCP. If you're running AdGuard locally, you can do this. We're not. We're in the cloud, so I wouldn't recommend having your DHCP server on a droplet. You would then have to set up a helper or a forwarder. But just like before, when we were going through the admin, I kind of glossed over this, but this setup guide page is probably one of the most helpful things if you are looking to start using AdGuard regularly. So it shows you the IP addresses that it's listening in on, both IPv4 and IPv6, as well as loopback and link local. It gives you steps for how to configure your router. If you're in a Windows machine and you want to do it statically, Mac OS, Android, iOS, and some information about DNS over HTTPS. But to do that, you need to configure the encryption we were talking about. So that is a lot of the stuff you can see in AdGuard specifically. But then if we go back to DigitalOcean, the last thing that we were going to cover today in a little bit quicker of a video is downsizing our droplet. If you guys remember, we made this a hefty one so that I didn't have to, so that I didn't have to, it's funny to me. I could have just done some swap space and got through the OOM killer that way, but it was easier to upsize. So now we need to go back in and downsize. To downsize, you have to go to upsize. So we're going to need to turn off our DNS. So I wouldn't recommend doing this um, long term. I have my local network set to use a backup DNS server if ours goes offline. So that it is okay to take it down for a little bit, but then I want to bring it back up because I have liked having AdGuard. It has blocked some traffic that I wouldn't want going out. And then we'll just change it back to $4 isn't available for me, so I'm going to do the basic $6 a month. Resize that. We'll give it a second to get through on that. I like how their loading bars fill up and then drop back down and then fill up and then drop back down. Sometimes it's like, I'm not sure if I'm loaded or not. Close out my AdGuard tabs, reload the page. Probably the longest part of the whole process is just getting the droplet back to an affordable tier. So if you guys see it up in the top corner, we had pretty steady cost throughout the entire month so far. But once we left that expensive droplet running at $18 an hour, it did jump up my estimated cost to $1.69. Nice. So now we're going to go into, come on, just a little bit more. All right, now we can turn it back on. And if you ever have to turn off and then back on your droplet, I always hop back to my terminal and just do that test net connection to make sure that it is allowing the type of traffic that I need. So very first off, we're going to ping, because if you can't ping, you can't do cooler stuff. And you might be thinking, why not just jump right into test net connection? It does the same thing. Yeah, it does the same thing, but it takes longer to get a response. So ping shows us really quickly, whereas test net connection, and then we can specify the port. So like port 80 is how I was accessing the web side. So if I go ahead and do test net connection, IP address space hyphen port space 80, let's see if that web server is live again. And if not, we might need to bring it back online. But it is, so we are good. That means my DNS should be working out quite right. We can actually just do an NSLOOKUP to do that. So if I do NSLOOKUP, hacksmarter.org is a website that I was looking at earlier. 104, 248, 194, 210. So NSLOOKUP, I'm pretty sure this is the syntax. It's NovNov. NSLOOKUP, what you want to query, and then the server you want to use to query it. And yeah, so it doesn't know my server, but it was able to use it to resolve hacksmarter.org to that IP address. So we do have DNS operating on our AdGuard again, even after the shutdown and restart. So nslookup, test-netconnection, and ping were all ways that we could verify that without actually using our browser and looking at AdGuard directly. So that is all for today's NovNov. I'll be back again tomorrow. We are going to get into some interesting stuff.